What is going on, my friends? Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to walk you through my entire 3D character creation workflow. I also want to say that just because I do it this way doesn't mean that there are a lot of other ways to accomplish this. I'm going to be using some paid software such as Character Creator 3 here, but I want to make this video as general as possible and give any person planning on creating a 3D character as much useful information as possible. So even if you don't have this software here, I'm going to leave some links below to other tutorials showing you different free methods using Blender, Cinema 4D, etc. And I'm also going to give you guys a bunch of useful tips such as other softwares you can use that are free in this tutorial to add animations to your character, to give customized clothing to your character, accessories, and things like that. If you do enjoy the content, please leave a like to help the growth of the channel, consider subscribing, and comment below if you'd like to request a tutorial or have any questions. So today's video is going to be made up of three main parts. The first part is going to be talking about designing and building the character, so the software that I use or a bunch of other free options that we'll be mentioning. Number two is going to be all about customizing the character, different hair, different accessories, different looks to the character. Step 3 is going to be adding final details. So we're going to talk about using Photoshop to work on the textures. And we're also going to be talking about adding animations to your character. And that's about it. So let's get right into the tutorial. Okay, so let's go about creating our character. I'm going to show you a little reference image on the screen here of what we're trying to replicate. We're going to be recreating the character that I mentioned in my recent 10 3D tips tutorial, and we're going to be using the headshot plugin for Character Creator 3, and we're going to be using the Pro mode. The auto mode is nice. It gives you a 1K texture instead of a 4K. It can create 3D hair based on the image. So if you're trying to get something super fast, you can use the auto version. I'm going to use the Pro just so I can customize things a tiny bit more. So for this plugin, it's best to use a headshot of the subject you're trying to create. You guys can try using different headshot photos, not with the professional lighting and straight on, but you may not have the best results. So for the best results, try and have as high of a quality as picture as possible, good lighting. We're going to do here, we're going to select body type male. And for here, you guys can select if you'd like to have beard, old. So this is kind of just changing some of the skin settings. So we're going to put it as beard and scalp, male, and we can go ahead and generate. And you guys are going to see this start to analyze the facial image and start to process this character. All right, guys, so the processing went through, and as you can see, pretty great result for being able to do this within minutes. There's a few tools you can use here to improve the look of this or to customize in any way you may want. So with this headshot plugin here, you'll have these two little options. You have this first option, which is the image matching, which you can adjust the opacity and the lens for, and you can see how well that really does match up with the image and the 3D model, even the hair here at the front. And of course, we're going to fix all this once we start to add everything else in. With the beard as well, I'm going to show you later on how we can customize the textures using Photoshop or any other photo editing tool. And not just the beard, you can do this with the skin or any other type of addition you want to add on to the facial texture. Now, if you need to make any major adjustments here to the shape of the facial features, you can go ahead and click this button next to headshot, the sculpt morph tool. And as you see, there's a bunch of different sculpting methods for different parts of the face. So it gives you very in-depth customization to really make any changes that you would need. So say I want to come in here and try and have my reference image up, change around the nose, etc., etc. You guys can go and do that. Once you've made your adjustments, you can also click on update skin texture. If there's any issues in the texture glitching out, make sure you update it there. And scrolling down here in our options, let's also just look through here. You can change your eye color if for any reason it didn't update it correctly, and I'll show you once we get into the content section all that you really can do with that. Skin color, if you're using something without correct lighting, you may want to touch that up a little bit. But again, in Photoshop, we could correct that later on. And here's just giving you a little look at the texture maps that are being created. Your roughness map, your diffuse, your normal. So that's all pretty great. Again, very quick, very easy. That's why this is my personal workflow. It costs money for this, but I think that if you really want to get into 3D and you really want to make some fast, easy characters with the best available tools, I recommend using this. Let's hop over to content and get some clothes on our character here. And I'm going to show you how to make custom clothes later, but for now you can just go through here. They have their own Reallusion online marketplace, but it's pretty limited compared to all the other things you can find on the internet or just making it from scratch. But I think I did end up using these default jeans for the final product of the original character. So in your content tab here, you have a bunch of different options here. So you're going to see, if you click to the second tab here, you can adjust the base body model. So say you want to go with a different body model to change this up. You have some different presets here as well. You have some different preset expressions, and we'll get into that a bit. Now, getting into hair, here's the default. Here's just the default ones that are built in, and we're going to add some hair that we find on Daz later, because obviously that's the main issue with our our character here. I'll show you how to blend that together as well. I found this tutorial of someone using this exact software to create this 3D animated Pennywise from scratch using Blender, Photoshop as well. So you really can do a lot with these different tools. They give you some more interesting, colorful options here if you're trying to make some cool kind of fantasy characters. Different ones here, and I'm sure you can download a bunch more. Again, you have the presets there, and that looks horrifying. You guys can also use the little morph tab here. So if you click on this modify tab, you have full control over all of these sliders. Here's some more little accessories. Again, we can use Daz.com, which is free, and we're going to show you later to talk more about getting some more accessories, wider range of them. Give them a little axe here for all you video game developers out there. This is going to be very useful for you particularly. So now in the posing section, we have a bunch of pose presets here. You guys can use this if you're trying to create a specific image, or I'll show you later on how we can get some free animations, breathe some life into this character. You guys can get a nice little T-pose preset here, which is going to be useful later on for when we do bring this character into Mixamo for those free animations. So this is very useful for you guys. In terms of the posing, you can even click this tab, the motion modify. You can edit the facial and edit the pose from here. So if I click edit pose, it gives you this little bone structure setup where we can select anything specific, such as this. We can use this to make our own custom poses. You guys can get your little jumping jacks like that. So quickly, just touching on that. Again, the edit facial. Now this is where you can do some really cool stuff. You can also go to the expression, and we can go through some of these presets like we were mentioning before. You can also change the level of expressiveness, so you can keep it from 0, 50 to 100. Okay guys, so this isn't a feature with the character creator software I'm showing you, but this is actually for iClone, which is kind of the sister software for character creator. You can actually get this facial mocap with an iPhone where you sync up the iPhone to the software, and you can literally speak and move the face of the character that you created. So it records audio simultaneously. You can see all the tracking information from the mocap from your iPhone face here. If I just show you this, it's pretty insane what you're able to do in this day and age with the software available. If you want me to try and dive into this side of things and more of the facial animation mocap behind it, let me know in the comments. I could definitely make a video pertaining to that. I just wanted to show you because I thought that was one of the many cool features when it comes to character creation. So let's go over to File, Export, and we're going to export this as an FBX clothed character. You guys can also save some OBJ formats of this, but I'm going to go ahead and export the FBX. And I use Cinema 4D, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. Of course, you can choose any target tool preset if you'd like. All right, so my preferred 3D software is Cinema 4D. Of course, you can use whatever you're using on your own end. I'm going to file and merge objects and just bring in the character that I exported from Character Creator. All right, so I merged it in, and here you go. As you can see, we have our little base rig. We do plan on using Mixamo for the animation later on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll explain it as we go. You can just delete this base root here if you don't plan on doing any posing in Cinema 4D, Blender, Maya, whatever it is you're using here. So you can delete that and just make a new one later. Also, the boxers are kind of peeking through, so we'll just delete those. We don't need them. So now let's go and keep adding onto our character here. We need to add some custom hair. You may have done that already in your character creator process, but if not, I want to point you guys out to Daz.com because you can get this Daz software for free. There's a lot of different character models. There's a huge marketplace, tons of different accessories, clothing packs, animation, poses, things like that. It's a very useful thing to have. So if you guys download Daz using the install manager, you find whatever it is you need, for example, in this case, hair or some sort of accessory, you can bring that into Daz.com and then just file, export that as an FBX, and then bring it into Cinema 4D, Blender, whatever 3D software you're using. So link to Daz will be down below. Again, it's very useful. Probably one of the best 3D marketplaces for assets like this that you can find out there. All right, guys, so I fired up my renderer here, Octane in Cinema 4D. I imported it in using that file merge. So again, you can do the same exact thing, just try and find some hair. This is exactly what I did. I just kind of use my little axis here to try and make this fit his head as best as possible. You may need to get some different angles of this just to really fit it. And if it looks a little bit out of place, you guys can always use your scaling tools and make any adjustments. So that is how I went about getting the hair on my character. Now let's go ahead and talk about adding in a custom shirt, and we're going to actually create the shirt that he was wearing in the normal footage of this music video in 3D, and we're going to do the same with the shoes. So we're going to have the exact same shoes that he was wearing in the music video. recreated within 3D using some of these techniques that I'm going to show you. So this is an optional step here. I'm going to talk about using Marvelous Designer, and this is an awesome software for creating clothing and accessories for your 3D characters. You'll see in this music video, I use this a lot to create these different ripped cloaks that are dynamic and move with the character. I also used it to create a t-shirt for my main character and customize it. I understand a lot of you may not have this software, so I recommend you use the last step that I mentioned, using Daz or some sort of 3D marketplace to add in your clothing. If you don't want to pay any money for this, you can always just look up free 3D clothing. A bunch of videos talking about free places to get 3D assets such as Turbo Squid, CG Trader, so there are a lot of options out there. All right, so now that we've added the hair, let's bring that into Marvelous Designer. We're going to go up to File, Export again, and we're just going to export another FBX. So here we are in Marvelous Designer. I'm going to go ahead and make a custom t-shirt, which is very easy. Of course, you guys can make any type of clothing or accessory for your characters using this fun software. There's a lot of great tutorials out there. But either way, I'm going to show you how to just create a t-shirt, and then we're going to add the animation later. If you'd like to add the animation first and then the clothing, you guys can do that as well. The benefit of adding the animation first and the clothing second is you can actually make the clothing dynamic using Marvelous Designer's animation tab here. So if you want the clothing to kind of be flowing with the way that your character is walking, like this clip here. Now, if you just want to add clothing and then you're going to add the animation second, so you're not going to have the clothing flowing in the wind like the other stuff, it's not going to be dynamic, but it's still going to be part of the character, then that's what we're going to do here. So that's a very important thing I wanted to get across before we did this. So first off, let's go File, Import, and let's import in the FBX that we brought in from Cinema 4D or Character Creator if you want to just hop right to this step. All right, guys, so we imported in our FBX here, and we're just going to make a simple t-shirt. And this isn't really going to affect our character. We just need the shape of our character in a T-pose here so that we can fit the shirt to him. And then once we've created this t-shirt, clothing, coat, whatever it is you want to make, then we can add the customization, the texturing to it, and then just bring that back into Cinema 4D and put it all together. All right, so let's go ahead and just create this t-shirt. I'm going to go over to this little rectangle. I'm going to click and hold. I'm going to select my polygon tool. So you can click H for a shortcut. Now, as you can see, I can just draw these little points here. So let's go ahead and just create two little points here by the shoulder, and then kind of create this little V line by the neck, and then just connect at the waist. And then I'm also going to put one here by the armpit and then connect it like here. So there we go. If you want to move these points, you can just grab this little edit pattern. I'm going to grab this little curvature, edit curvature button. There's also the edit curve point. So I'm going to edit the curvature and just kind of add a little bit of curve onto this for where we're going to have our sleeve, and then right click and unfold. Go ahead and delete that middle part and just curve this out like that. And that's about it in terms of the shape. Again, there's lots of really great tutorials out there for really building the clothing. This isn't really supposed to be just about building a t-shirt. So I'm just going to kind of go quickly through this because I'm really just trying to show some of these features as opposed to show step by step on how to do one specific thing. So on the left here, you can see where we can fit the shirt to our character. You can use the little axis here to move this and rotate it. So let's go ahead and just click Control C, Control V, and we're going to paste the back part of the shirt over here. And you'll see how it's kind of gray on the outside. We want the gray to be on the inside. So just right click and click Flip Normal. So there you go. As you can see, we've got this back part of the t-shirt and the front part. Now, the coolest thing about this software is you can actually sew these two pieces together, and you're going to be able to see this sew together and react whenever we simulate the scene. So what we can do here, I'm going to select this tool here to move this back part over. Moving this isn't going to do anything. This is more of just like the design side of it. I'm going to sew together the front and the back part of the shirt. So to do that, you can grab this little sewing tool, segment sewing. I'm going to go with that. And since this is the back, as you see, if I highlight, it'll highlight which part I'm really looking at over here. So that's pretty useful when it comes to doing this. That'll help you a lot. So I'm going to sew this back right shoulder here to my front right shoulder. So I'm going to click and make that little seam and release. And then I'm going to click right there to connect. We now have those little sew lines where they should be. So let's do the same with the other sleeve. Just click to create that little seam, then connect it to our other shoulder. And you'll see I kind of messed up the seam. It's crisscrossed. So I'll just Control Z and let's redo that. I think it should be like this. There we go. We have a nice straight line. And then the same with the bottom of the shirt, side of the shirt, whatever you want to do here, as you can see on the left, and same with this part. There you go. And then the magic of this software here, if we go ahead and click the simulate button, you're going to see this all sew together just like that and connect. So you can create some really awesome stuff doing this. One cool thing is the ability to click the shirt or whatever you are creating and drag it out, so you can kind of reposition and fluff up the clothing to fix any issues that come along the way. So that's one really awesome thing about this. I talked about this a little bit while creating that 3D ghost tutorial, and I'm not going to go through and add sleeves and all the other advanced things because, again, I mentioned there's a lot of tutorials out there for whatever it is you're trying to specifically create. I just wanted to really show you the features and give you guys the insight into this and my workflow as a whole. So if we wanted to customize something like this, it's as easy as really just going to your fabric here in the top right, and I move myself over so you guys can see. As you see, material, and here's all your textures, your mapping, your normal map. You guys can load in any specific thing. If you just want to add a logo onto here, you can click this little graphic 2D pattern. And this is going to lead me into the final part of the detailing on our character here, because we're going to do some Photoshop work. We're going to change around some textures, and we're going to kind of finesse things to get them the way we want it. So this is the picture of the shirt reference that they wanted in the music video on the 3D character here. So I literally took this into Photoshop and I just used some selection tools to get this image here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Same with the shoe. Here's the reference image of the shoe, and here is the texture that we ended up creating for that shoe. As you see, I customized it to look like our reference image. So first, let's just load on this, and then later on, we're going to show you how to make it. So I made the width a little bit too big here. If I wanted to, I could just redo this little graphic add in here, and let's maybe make this not so crazy of a width and height. Let's maybe make this like 50 by 50. And you can see now we can grab and we can change the way that this graphic is being projected onto our t-shirt. And you can export this as an FBX, OBJ, whatever it is you really want, because technically we're not adding that dynamic movement onto here because we're adding the animation second. So again, Marvelous Designer, very useful tool for the customization, making some really cool characters. All right guys, so I've got the textures off right now, but either way, now that we exported that out of Marvelous Designer, again, once you have your clothes already, you can just go File, Merge Object, whatever you brought in from Marvelous Designer, just like this. Now, if it imports it in with a second character, but the character is wearing the clothes, just delete the second character and keep the clothing you need. When I mentioned creating those textures, created a little glossy octane texture and just loaded in that Photoshop logo that I made. So let's start getting into talking about how to do the little customization, such as bringing in these logos from the shirts, adding in the shoes, etc. So as you see, once I dropped in the little texture that we're about to make, the projection's a little off. You could always just go to your node editor here. This is a bitmap. We need to make this an image texture. Now we load in the texture, and now we can change the UV transform, and I can just scale this and move it however I would like. So to actually create that texture, which I was just using and projected onto that t-shirt that we made, let's hop into Photoshop here. This is going to be our next step. We have these shoes here, and this is actually a 3D scan of the exact same shoe that he was wearing in the video here. I actually got this from Travis David's pack online as well, so I'll link that down below. All I did was import in the little OBJ. It's the Nike Air Force Low ones, and I just kind of fit them to be on his feet, such as this, and it fit pretty well. So in Photoshop, this is the texture we're trying to create. Being able to change around these textures is going to be super beneficial when it comes to creating your characters. What I really did was just drag the reference images that were sent to me into Photoshop. I just grabbed this little lasso tool in Photoshop, and I just kind of went like this. Click Control J to make a copy of only what you selected. We can hide this layer here. And then you can see what I did pretty much. You can position this on top of this background. This background is literally just some black fabric that I got off Google Images and just copied and pasted into here, but it's really that easy. If you guys need to, you can change around the blending modes if you need to try and get rid of these rough edges. That's really it for creating a t-shirt texture. Back in Cinema 4D Octane, this is the project file with my textures loaded in here. All I did was just file, merge objects, and bring in that shirt that we made from Marvelous Designer. I just made a little diffuse material and just loaded an image texture onto that diffuse material. Simple as that. Drag it onto your t-shirt or clothing, whatever it is. All right, so for the shoes, like I mentioned, you can bring in that Travis David's raw 3D scan sneakers. If you're into 3D scanning, you could of course get your own custom ones into your 3D software. But I'm just going to go ahead and use this because it actually included the one that I needed that he was wearing in the music video anyways. So you have the high or low versions. I'm going to bring in the high version, and let's just bring in the 3D object, which is included within that. Link to this will be down below. So what I did here was Control C, Control V to duplicate this shoe. You'll see your position, size, and rotation. In Cinema 4D, you can just go to size and just add a negative for all of that, and then click Apply. And you'll see it'll flip it over And then using my rotation here, I can just fix that, and let's move that over a bit. And we should now have a pair of shoes. So now I'm just going to use my little positioning tools here to place this on the feet of my 3D character. And there we go, almost complete. We'll just scale up a tiny bit more and adjust. And there you go. So you got your 3D model of your shoes here. You've got them placed on your 3D character. Now we want to customize them to look however we'd like. Of course, so luckily in this 3D scan pack, we have some texture maps. We have roughness, your normal, and your diffuse. So that's very useful here. You can actually just drag that into Cinema 4D and then just drop that right on the shoe. And you'll be able to see how that's applied. And then again, talking about using Photoshop, say you want to customize this to make it any color you want. Let's go navigate to where these textures are saved. So I'm going to go to this area here, the high. This is the texture we're using. Just open that up. I can just click adjustments here and just kind of hue saturate it. So say you want to just change one color, something as easy as that. So let's maybe make it all blue. File, save as. We'll save it right next to the other one. We'll just make it a PNG. The new one we made from Photoshop. Let's try and drag that on the shoes. You'll now be able to see how we can really customize textures using Photoshop. And again, that was the lazy method of it. Say you want to bring in the low top version, just because this one has a little more simple texture. The bottom right here, if you guys can see my mouse, I'm just going to make a new layer here. And I'm going to set the blending mode of this to color. Say I want to write my name even. All you need to do, file, save as, save that PNG, and then just drag that back into your 3D software. Select children, right click apply, and there you go. That's how you can really customize things. This also applies to our textures that already come with our model. So maybe you want to customize the eyes in Photoshop. Maybe you want to customize the face in Photoshop. So for our face, you see that the beard isn't as dark as it could be. So here is our face texture, which is horrifying, if I might say. I think for this specifically, I actually just Control J to duplicate the original copy. So right click, select the burn tool, use your brackets to make this bigger, and you can darken up any areas. So here's the darker beard version. I'll just drag that in here so you guys could see the difference. And we'll just click and drag that over where my original face texture was. And you guys can see, just like that, I was able to make that small adjustment. Here's another angle you guys can see. So pretty useful, especially when it comes to creating those small little details with your character. Talked about designing your character. I used Character Creator 3 with the headshot plugin. We've talked about customizing your character using different things like Daz, Marvelous Designer, and Photoshop to even really hone in on those little details that we want to customize. Now let me show you how we can add animations onto your character. Now I use free animations from Mixamo.com, but of course there's a few different options for you. You guys can get one of those mocap suits and even create your own mocap and apply it to your character if you want to go down the expensive route. Those of you who are into video game development, that may be what you want to do. Get your own little mocap at home setup and make your own custom movements. There's also the option to find any paid ones online. I mentioned Reillusion. Since they're into mocap a lot, they sell their own custom suits and they have a lot of things pertaining to motion capture. They actually have an online library with a lot of custom animations like fighting animations and things like that. And then lastly, you can use Mixamo.com, which I'm pretty sure is owned by Adobe, to get some free animations. So once you're ready with the clothing here, you go to File, Export, and you make a new FBX. And this is going to be the one that's ready for Mixamo. Once you're on Mixamo.com, you can sign in with your Adobe credentials or just make an account, whatever. It's all free. Just go ahead and click upload character here. Find the FBX that you saved. So this is the one I had here. I also want to mention to you guys, if you do end up making any kind of 3D character using the tips that I show you in this video or the workflow from this video, feel free to link it to me on my Instagram. I love checking out what you guys do. My Instagram tag will be on the screen now. So once Mixamo processes your character, you can check them out here. And from here, you guys can literally go through this giant library of different stuff. Maybe you want to have your character jumping, fighting, dancing, whatever it is. All you need to do at this point is click download once you've found what you want, and then bring that FBX file back into your 3D software. Make sure you save your normal T-pose and don't mess with it. Make sure you save this so you can always come back to just your T-pose. You're going to want to have this T-pose character up so you can copy and paste your textures. You just go to File, Merge Objects. So once you've imported that back in, there you go. We have our new character. I'm just going to select the new character and let's Alt-G to put it in its own null group. Let's just name this Dancing. That's usually what I would do. That it's in a null, you could select it. Just move it over a little bit. Also, we don't need this camera here. We'll delete that camera. And if you press play, there you go. You now see your 3D character is animated. We got him doing this little Squidward dance here. Now, if you want to get the textures from your T-pose to your animated version, if we take a look in my object bin here, you'll see it's the same sort of setup. So all you need to do is just grab your, let's Alt-G this first, grab your T-pose, and let's just Control-C, Control-V to paste it. So now we have a duplication of that T-pose with all of these texture tags and selection tags, and as you see, they match up with the dancing because that's how we imported it in. So say for example with head, you have your head here for your animated version, head here for your T-pose version. You hold down Shift and I just drag the tags right onto where they should go. So as you see, hold Shift, drag these onto the base eye, and there you guys go. So that's about it. That's really the process. It's not that hard. I actually ended up doing that for all the characters in my last little 3D music video that I put out, and that's really about it. That's my full workflow. The last thing that I want to mention before I leave you guys is I want to talk about what you should do if you do want to have that dynamic clothing from Marvelous Designer, where you have a character walking down the street and the cloak that I made in Marvelous Designer is flowing with the motion of the walk. To do that, what you're going to need to do is set up this T-pose to animation in Cinema 4D or whatever other software you're using. But essentially what you need is you need your character in a T-pose, and then you need to have a little motion clip which allows it to go into whatever animation you want. That way, whenever you are working in Marvelous Designer, your character starts in a T-pose so that you can design the clothes as a T-pose without any weird posing morph issues, and then it'll transition into the animation that you need. This may sound a little complicated, but I'm going to leave a tutorial below which explains all of this. As always, guys, if you did enjoy, leave a like. I appreciate it. It helps the growth of the channel a huge amount. Comment below what you'd like to see next from me. 90% of what I make is just based off the comments. You guys were asking for this one in the last 3D tips and tricks video. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting, and I'll see you guys in the next one.